Tonight, the Jeff Davis 8 and the Wayfair conspiracy theory. Only on Newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Buying your first home can be overwhelming, but here are 5 tips to make the process go smoother. Number 1, find a lender, me, Ed Locke, that can answer any questions you might have and help you get pre-approved. There are multiple options available based on your situation. Number 2, work with a real estate agent you can trust. Number 3, don't rush the process. Take your time and know that the process could take some time. Number 4, consider all the costs. Number 5, get a home inspection and review it with your realtor. Keep these tips in mind, budget for yourself, and you'll be that much closer to making your dream of homeownership a reality. So reach out to me at 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity.
Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
Jerry!
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm great and getting better.
Me too. And I'm excited because I hit the record button and our thing starts working better. So, woohoo!
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Go figure.
Man, we got a interesting and what's the word?
Macabre, I think, would be
A macabre story
Good word for
today. We've got a very weird conspiracy we're going to talk about that, for the most part, I think most of it has been put to bed. It's one that didn't pan out the way conspiracy theorists, and I can't imagine a conspiracy theorist would have hoped that would have panned out the right way, but it's going to be interesting to go. All I know is right now, my wife is so mad at me, Jerry.
Why is that?
I invested all of our savings in Bose stereos.
Why does that bother her? That's a good product.
Well, I told her it was a sound investment.
She didn't see it quite the same way you did.
Oh, no, definitely not. Definitely not.
You know what you should have told her about?
What?
They've come out with a new sugar substitute that's marijuana based.
Really?
It's called Sweet and High.
Sweet.
Yeah. That would be a good investment right there.
So, on a completely side note,
Okay.
I wonder if my new condition will allow me to partake in Sweet and High and not get in trouble at work.
I don't think so. Kentucky hasn't passed those laws, right?
Yeah, medical.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, medical's
I'm
legal.
behind at the time. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just have to get a doctor to sign off on it?
Yeah, I think so.
Dude, I'm sure I've got diabetes. I'm sure I could get a prescription for it.
In all seriousness, I've not done. Everybody, I think, at some point experiments, tries, whatever.
Sure.
And
even Jeb Bush, right? Had
Yeah.
done it to his mom during the presidency.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Mom.
but I never found much enjoyment out of that, to be
Neither
honest.
did I.
That wasn't my
I think I
thing.
told on air what happened when I did, right? Back in college.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Almost 40 years ago,
Oh.
I'm just thinking it's literally almost 40 years ago. But anyway,
What the people at home don't know is when you were doing that pause and you said, "Holy crap!" There was literal smoke coming out of your ears. Just saying.
but two things happened when and I'm pretty sure I've told this on the air, but two things happened when I tried it, and it was a time or two. But I became very sleepy, and I wanted to eat everything in the house. So I figured I've never been anorexic. I've never had a problem sleeping. I don't need this. It's just going to make me want to eat everything and go to sleep. I don't need this.
The two worst things you can do is eat and then go directly to sleep. Where, if you eat and then go work out or something and
But it
burn.
gives you the munchies, right?
Yeah.
And it always put me to sleep.
I just never felt that, that compulsory, I can't say the word, compulsory reasoning to just be part of the crowd that did that. It just wasn't my gig. I have plenty of friends that do and still do to this day. More power to them. I'm not my place to judge or anything.
I don't have a problem with marijuana. I really don't. For some people, it literally does not make any sense at all. If you're working for a company who does random drug testing or whatever, why would you endanger your livelihood? If you're on vacation, you have any idea how long it takes for it to get out of your system? Me either.
It used to.
I've never known. But if it's if you can go on vacation in the early part of the week or middle part of the week, do it, and it's not going to be in your system. I don't know if that's realistic. I have no clue. But
I'm pretty sure we could learn a few things from folks that we're very close to. We won't mention names on air, but we'll have to ask those questions off the air to certain people.
Like that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that, absolutely.
Jim Bob, give us a call. You seem to be a resident expert.
Hey, since you said give us a call, why don't you tell everybody how they could give us a call or reach out to us?
Reach out to us and let us know if something needs more news coverage or less. Ideas, suggestions for new episodes. But they have a couple of ways of doing it. One, they can email us at newsworthywithstephenjerry@gmail.com. They can also text us on our text line at area code 540-709-1318.
Yeah, that also works if you want to be a guest on our show. We'd love to have guests, and we actually have a couple of interviews, I think, that are starting to stack up. We just want to do a couple more episodes to be more familiar with this new publisher, to make sure that everything is looking good for us and that we are able to do that seamlessly. We had such an issue with it. Little gun shy. We had such an issue with it our last publisher.
Every time we tried.
Every single time. So
that was several times.
Very soon, one of those we hope is going to be involving some paranormal researchers. That ought to be cool. And hopefully we can get our main man Clay back on here and he can tell us about some awesome government conspiracy or cover-up or how bad the government is spying on us currently.
And he is our resident expert for that.
You ain't a kidding, boys. Eat, sleeps, breathes it.
Yes, he does.
So, anywho.
That he does.
So, Jerry.
Mr. Steve.
You got a conspiracy for us tonight.
I do. Why don't you lead off? I think yours is more exciting, so. My conspiracy theory is stupid. We'll discuss that later.
Just stupid. You can't just say, well, the conspiracy I'm going to be talking about today is just stupid.
Pretty much is.
Okay, well, I want to talk tonight about at least one. We might get into two, but I want to talk about a particular set of killings that happened down in Louisiana. Now, the authorities don't know if this is the result of one killer, a serial killer, or multiple killers. And the reason they have a couple of, we'll get into some of the details as to why They think that it may not be the work of a serial killer, it may be the work of some drug cartel, but it meets the criteria, which is basically to be a serial killer, you kill, there's a brief period of inactivity, you kill again in a serial fashion. So if this is a work of a single, hitman or enforcer for the drug cartel, it is, but it also has a law enforcement twist. In fact, there's a lot of twists and turns in this whole thing, and it's kind of, like you said, interesting. Now, I want to preface this by saying, when we say interesting, we don't mean to discredit or take away from the fact that 8 people have lost their lives. They had families, they had children, they had, moms, dads. So we don't want to break away from that off at all. But this case is very interesting. And as at the time of us going on air with it right now is yet unsolved. So anytime we can bring, some more light on this subject, I think that's newsworthy.
Absolutely.
Especially if it helps bring somebody to justice for this.
Yep.
So let's talk about what we're talking about is the Jeff Davis 8, sometimes called the Jennings 8. It refers to a series of unsolved murders in Jefferson Davis Parish down in Louisiana. Between 2005 and 2009, at least 8 women were found in swamps and canals surrounding Jennings, Louisiana. Most of the bodies were found in such a state of decomposition to make the actual cause of death very difficult to determine. There's been plenty of books and investigative reporting. Ethan Brown is one of these people, and they have revealed in several instances how police investigations have been plagued by missteps within the sheriff's department, and how some evidence has been misplaced or lost. and we'll get into some of the reasoning behind that anyway.
Is that a very big, what'd you call it, a parish?
Parish, it's what,
parish?
I think, well, let's look it up. I didn't even...
The reason I was asking is sometimes people go into an area, a very small town, where a horrible crime has been committed, and they start, years later saying, well, the sheriff and chief of police didn't do this, didn't do that. A lot of these guys in these little small towns
do the best they can with what they got.
They didn't have the education. They did the best that they probably could. So I was just wondering if this possibly was one of something like that.
At the 2010 census population was 10,383. Very small town.
Area.
About the size of Lawrenceburg.
Yeah. Small area.
Yeah. So.
But what's a parish equivalent to? A city?
Yeah, it's like
County?
a community.
Okay.
It's a corporated town. In Ohio, they call them incorporated areas. We call them towns and podunks here.
But small area.
Yeah, very small town. Very, very small town. Anyway, back to it. There was contributing to lost missing evidence. There are many things that say that it's not likely that this is a serial killer case, but that some things of law enforcement here and some of law enforcement have actually been suspects in the case. Most people believe that this was a drug-based thing, something drug-related, and we'll get into that in just a second. But let's talk about the victims for a second. This is one of the rare cases in multiple killings where the victims were all very close in age. They all knew each other. Some of them were even kinfolk, which is kind of weird. The first victim that was found is Loretta Lewis, 28. She was found floating in the river by a fisherman on May 20th, 2005. Other victims were Ernestine Marie Daniels Patterson. She was 30. Crystal Gary Lopez, 21. Whitney Dubois, 26. LaConya Muggy Brown, 23. Crystal Benoit Zeno, 24. Brittany Gary, 17. And the final body that was found was Nicole Gilroy at 26. That one was a little odd because she was actually just found off the Interstate 10 in 2009. Now, we said that some of the decomposition made it almost impossible to discover how they'd been killed. The ones that they could tell had their throats slit. Most of the people thinks that some form of asphyxia was the main contributing factor. So Brown gets, back to Ethan Brown, he gets a lot of credit for the work that he's done in this case as a non-law enforcement person. He gets a lot of credit because he did the hard digging, he did the found. So we're going to mention his name a lot, give him a lot of credit. But his investigative work reveals many tangled connections between the victims, the suspects, and the police. Like we said before, most of the victims knew each other pretty well. Some were related. Kristen Lopez and Brittany Gary were cousins. Gary actually lived with Crystal Benoit shortly before her death. The victims also shared other common traits: poverty, mental illness, and the two big ones in this particular case is a history of drug abuse and sex work. And we get to the drug thing. That's kind of a weird thing, and it gets us to some of our first suspects.
Sorry for interrupting.
No,
How
you're
many
good.
of them had the sex work commonality? All of them?
As far as I know, all of them did.
What is this sounding more and more like to you? What does this remind you of?
Like some sort of harem or drug house, trap house.
The guy in New York.
Oh, or Cleveland, wasn't it Cleveland?
No, the guy in New York that just in the last couple of months. What's his name?
I don't know.
The serial killer. Going back 20, 30 years. And the bodies were all dumped on this little stretch of a beach there in New York
The Long
City.
Island Killer. He's number 2 on my list.
What's his name? I can't believe I forgot him. The big, tall. He looks like the dude.
Are we talking about Rex Howerman?
Yes.
Yeah.
So much of this is reminding me of that case.
Yeah.
From the sex work to where the bodies were dumped and all of it. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
just big coincidence, I'm sure. But
Yeah. So Kristen Lopez, we're talking about the the many twists and turns on this case. Kristen Lopez, one of the victims, was actually present when police shot and killed a drug dealer named Leonard Crochet in 2005, along with several other individuals connected with the Jeff Davis 8 case. Alvin Bootsy Lewis was who had fathered a child with the victim Whitney Dubois, and is also the brother-in-law of the first victim of Loretta Chasen Lewis. All of these people were there and witnessed the police shoot and kill this drug dealer, and had some form of testimony to or for that case. Witnesses told the investigators they believed police had killed many of the victims because about what they knew about the shooting of Leonard Crochet. So that's the first big assault on the police department. A lot of the witnesses saw that particular incident, and then they started turning up dead themselves.
I just read that a Louisiana State Police investigation into that shooting concluded that he was unarmed when he was shot and killed.
Right.
You may mention that. If you did, I missed it.
I didn't. I hadn't got there yet. But
Another
yeah.
reason why they might be trying to cover up some
Exactly.
activity.
Several allegations. So the investigation, a task force consisting of 14 state, federal, and local law enforcement agencies was formed to solve the killings. From the very beginning, however, the task force was looking for a serial killer. just because of all the way that, they assumed that all the people died in the same way. They only could confirm how two of them had died because of the decomposition, which is another reason that they suspected that someone in law enforcement had a part in this, because they knew about decomposition times. They knew about what the police, the investigators would be looking for, and most of these victims had those problems erased before the investigators ever found them. One of the sergeants that actually took statements was forced out of his jobs, and allegations were ignored by the sheriff's department in regards to the Lopez case. In 2009, the sheriff ordered every investigator working on the Jeff Davis 8 case be swapped for DNA in response to the accusations. Here's the catch. Yeah, we're going to do it. We'll swab every one of our officers for DNA. However, the office to this day refuses to comment on the results of the DNA testing. How do you, first of all, let me just stop for a second. If the feds are telling you you're going to swab your dudes, how do you not turn over the results of that test? I don't understand how that works. It may be a jurisdictional thing. It may be something of that nature. I'm not sure. Anyway, the police have issued or arrested 4 different people in connection with the case. 2 were held on murder charges for months before being released because of issues with evidence, meaning it was made up. Frankie Richard, a local strip club owner and suspected drug dealer, and admitted to being a crack addict and having sex with most of the victims, was the last to have seen Crystal Lopez alive. Law enforcement's own witnesses, having connected Richard to the sheriff's office, and 2 female inmates who stated the sheriff's office disposed of evidence in the Lopez case, alleged that evidence was discarded at the behest of Richard, meaning Richard may have had something to do with it and paid off a couple of deputies to make that go away. So corruption, we'll throw corruption into that mix. And I laugh and I giggle because it's like, how is this happening in modern day America?
I think it happens a lot.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
small town. By the way, I looked it up. A parish is not a town. A parish, let me go here.
Sure.
And according to dictionary.com, parish has 2 meanings. The Christian church, Catholic church,
right.
1. Number 2, in Louisiana, it is a territorial division corresponding to a county in other states. If this county had 10,000 people, it's an extremely small. A 10,000 population town is small. A county of 10,000 is
That's
extremely
even
small.
Remotely small.
And the fact that they had 8 sex workers at least, because they died.
Yeah.
8 prostitutes in a town of 10,000? Holy crap.
Yeah. Crazy. A county of 10,000.
A county, yes, I keep saying town, a county of 10,000.
So, Byron Jones and Lawrence Nixon, a cousin of the 5th victim, Laconia Brown, were briefly charged with second-degree murder in the case of Ernestine Patterson. However, the sheriff's office did not test the alleged crime scene. Holy crap. The sheriff's office did not test the alleged crime scene until 15 months after Patterson's murder, and it failed to demonstrate the presence of blood after 15 months.
Go figure.
Go figure.
By the way, one question.
Sure.
Back to the original girls. Roughly how long between when they disappeared and when they were found?
Doesn't say.
Be interesting.
This particular article doesn't say. It does just say that all of this happened within a 4-year span, leading from the death of the. It didn't start until the death of the original drug dealer that the police shot, who was unarmed. So it simply says that most of them were in a state before they were found of such decomposition that they couldn't identify.
Leads you to believe it'd been some time. Bodies
sort of, except that they were in the swamp, and Louisiana, the conditions there are ripe for fast
It would happen
decomposition.
much quicker than a lot of places.
Right.
It's still not going to happen in a couple of days.
No, you're right.
Or even a week or two. They were there for a while.
And it's very fortunate that, we found all 8 of them to begin with. When we're talking swamp, we're talking about alligators and lots of things that make bodies go away very fast.
Yep.
This is one of those things that have so many twists and turns. There's actually a full book out on this. Ethan Brown, again, published a book called The Jeff Davis 8. I would certainly want to, and I think I'm going to actually read the entire book because, what we've given here is obviously a brief synopsis of what's going on. There are so many twists and turns, so many different avenues of corruption, so many avenues of money under the table, so many avenues of this person looked that way instead of looking this way for a reason.
I've already heard enough that I think police were absolutely
definitely involved. If not the entire police department, at least the people involved directly with the shooting of the drug dealer. I can't believe for the life of me they had nothing to do with this.
I agree.
So anyway, that's my first one. We'll leave it at that.
What was the name of the book, by the way?
The Jeff Davis 8.
Jeff Davis 8.
Yep.
See if I can find
You could probably find that on Amazon.com.
Probably. Probably could do.
Well, I certainly think, especially in this case, this definitely gets a thumbs up. It needs more news coverage because, there's 8 people with families out there that have no justice. So I feel like that definitely should get much more news coverage.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, the full name of the book is Murder in the Bayou: Who Killed the Women Known as the Jeff Davis 8
Yeah.
by Ethan Brown.
Great book. You should pick it up on Amazon, right? Is that where you found it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ethan, for your contributing work, because that was amazing.
And in many cases, without work from someone like him, no one ever hears of it.
No one
Ever. It just kind of slides away.
Yeah.
A bunch of prostitutes, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I was reading a small short story about a guy who died in a hotel not too long ago, and without work of one individual, they would have never been able to figure out it was murder, and would have never figured out who committed the murder because of toothpaste. Can you imagine that?
Go figure.
I could give you the whole story, but I'll let that salivate on your tongue for a while, because that's a cool story for a different day.
Here recently, I'm terrible with names, but here recently I heard about a case similar to what you're talking about, but after it was finally solved, and when it was, investigators gave huge credit to a podcaster who had talked about it numerous times and kept bringing attention back to it, and they come out and said, without this podcaster's work, this probably would have never been solved.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
that was probably the podcast I was listening to. I told you to listen to.
Which one was that?
Oh, I'll have to look it up again. I've already stopped.
Robin's favorite one's the murder.
No, something totally different.
Okay.
But yeah. So anyway, let's talk about that conspiracy. Then we'll come back and finish up with, if we have time, we'll talk about the Long Island serial killer.
And Steve and I, again, we've told you several times that we've moved to a new podcast host and we're just getting everything figured out. One of the things we've not figured out yet is how to leave links. If we get that figured out, leave a link to the Amazon page where you can actually order that book.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good read. And, again, 8 victims, no justice.
No justice. So obviously connected.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Just because you wear a badge does not mean you should get away with 8 murders. I'm sorry.
Not
Right.
100% true. Yeah, now for my crazy, stupid conspiracy.
Now listen. I just let me preface this by saying, when this first broke, and like all conspiracies, there was enough of the truth to make it believable for just a second.
I remember you and I talking about this.
Yeah.
And I thought it was ludicrous from day one. Nothing has changed.
That's because you got a big brain, Jerry.
No, it didn't pass the common sense test for me. It just didn't. In case you're wondering,
Go ahead.
Wayfair child trafficking conspiracy theory. But first of all, when we talk about conspiracy theories, we've talked about this before. The vast majority of them, like you said, are based upon reality to at least some extent.
Right.
There's enough truth.
They have a kernel, just
there's enough
something there
to make you believe this is possible or could be. And then there's some like this one. This one had none of that. It just had nothing. Wayfair.com, the upper middle class home goods webpage that sells, expensive stuff for your house. Back in 2020, a rumor started that they. Why are you trying to take our picture?
Well, because the last one I took, you were like frowning.
Probably thinking about this stupid.
Well, here's the thing. You ask why I take our picture. Let me explain why I take our picture. Because we have a Facebook page. We have Instagram page. We have an X page now, a Twitter page.
An X page. That still doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right. So there. But anyway, go right ahead, Jerry. Sorry.
But the theory was that Wayfair.com, the upper middle class home goods website, was not only selling home goods, that they were selling children. Someone had found some very expensive cabinets, I think it was. Yeah, it was cabinets. And there was, I don't know, a handful of cabinets, and the price was somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000. And they thought that was a crazy high price. And also the cabinets were named with girlish sounding names. They put the two together and they decided that Amazon was actually selling you this cabinet, but when you got it, it was going to have a human child inside it. That they were kidnapping and selling human children. And to get people to believe it even further, they had went out. Well, first let me give you the name of some of these children, if I can find that here. Yuritsa, Olivia, and there were others, but they were predominantly girls' names. They had went out and found previously missing children who had the same first name, and they would show the missing posters next to the $14,000 cabinet being sold on Wayfair.com. So that, in a nutshell, is the entire conspiracy theory.
And it was a conspiracy theory that took off like wildfire.
Really quick.
According to Facebook's own social media analytics tool, the term Wayfair generated 4.4 million engagements on Instagram. 4.4 million, and almost 12,000 on Facebook. 12,000 posts generating nearly 1 million direct engagements. It does not. That's just a number I was getting from the BBC.
Yeah,
just crazy.
It was. It just blows you away that so many people will fall for pretty much anything. This wasn't well researched. This wasn't documented. Very quickly, a few things began to come out about these missing children, quote unquote. They weren't missing. One was dead. One was a young child that had fell into a pond, I think it was, and she was dead. Another one had run away from home and was missing for 2 or 3 days, and she had been found, and there was plenty of police reports. She wasn't missing and hadn't been missing for a couple of years. Another one went on Facebook and did a live show saying, hey, guess what? I'm not missing.
I'm here.
Here's mom. Here's dad. So, but even with all of that, even the fact that it was debunked very quickly, repeatedly, that didn't stop it from spreading. That's the crazy part. That's why I'm calling it a crazy conspiracy. Snopes found that many of the children, again, as I said, were not in fact missing. Navarro was the autistic 3-year-old that had tragically died. She had wandered into a pond. Another one of the victims I had mentioned that went on Facebook Live, her name was Samaya Murman, M-U-R-M-I-N. But none of that stopped the conspiracy from spreading. You were talking about some of the numbers on Facebook, on Twitter. The week before it blew up, Wayfair was averaging 500 mentions per day. The 2 days after it blew up, they were averaging 600,000. No. They were averaging 1.8 million mentions by 600,000 people.
Jeez.
600,000 different people was making an average of 3 posts each. 1.8. So they went from 600 a day, 500 a day, to 1.8 million within a week.
You know what would be best?
What's that?
If those 600,000 people, instead of mentioning Wayfair, mentioned Newsworthy, that would be good.
That would. You know what would be even better?
What's that?
If people did a little bit of research, if they heard something that sounded too crazy to be true, if before they got on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, by the way was huge in this too, and TikTok has been known for spreading disinformation on several other matters as well. COVID they were huge on and got really drummed on for that. But the number of people who find something that maybe it contains a message that they like.
It aligns with their beliefs.
It aligns with their beliefs. A very good way to put it.
Yeah.
They don't stop to ask, is it true? They immediately get on every social media program they've got and start, retweeting, sending links. All that does is that's actually the exact reason why these things go viral in the first place.
I think another big thing that happens with that is celebrity deaths. People will retweet those before out. Hey, Google, just to make a quick Google search will tell you, yeah, that happened, or no, that didn't happen. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that Larry the Cable Guy's died. Poor guy's died 100 times at this point.
This one is very similar to the Pizzagate conspiracy theory.
Right.
Which, by the way, both were started by QAnon people. And they're very, very similar. The Pizzagate one was when Hillary Clinton was running for president in 2016. It was the theory that said that there was a bunch of pizza restaurants that were owned and controlled by some top-ranking Democrats that were also kidnapping children and selling them.
To take that just a step further, we both agree that Pizzagate is a non-issue. But at least that one had some other contributing factors to it.
Well, they'd researched it better, and it took a little more, not a lot, but a little bit more looking into it to realize it was full of crap, too.
Right. Unfortunately, wasn't that the one where somebody went into the restaurant with a rifle and tried to kill somebody?
From Alabama or North Carolina drove to Washington, D.C., went into one of the pizza places where it was supposedly going on with a rifle and started shooting.
Jeez.
He didn't shoot anyone. He shot in the air or whatever.
Still.
But, a guy drove several states with a rifle simply because he had read it and believed it. So he decided he was going to do what he could to stop the children from being abducted and sold and mistreated, and he went up there with intention to stop it.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so 2 things there. Kudos for believing in something enough to make the drive,
Yep.
Negative for doing it the exact wrong way.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, if you want to get an idea of how widespread this is, we talked about Facebook and we talked about Twitter and how many views and mentions and tweets and blah, blah, blah. A poll that was done a few days before the 2020 election by a group called the YouGov poll. And again, if we can figure out how to put links on the website, I'll put a link to this poll. But a poll a few days before the 2020 election found that half of Donald Trump supporters believe that top Democrats were in fact involved in an elite child sex trafficking ring. Okay? Now, the crazy part is, in the same poll, 44% of those people, the same people, Trump supporters, said that they had never heard of QAnon. 59% of those that had heard of QAnon said that it is an extremist conspiracy theory with no basis in fact. But yet the majority of them still believed what they were saying. So somewhere along the line, they hadn't heard it direct from QAnon. They weren't associating it with QAnon because when asked, they didn't think QAnon was reputable, credible. But they still believed the message. Again, I think it goes back to what you said. It aligned with their beliefs.
Not only that, it makes me remember, if you don't hear the information from the source or as close to the source as you can get, remember the telephone game?
Yeah.
Where one person at one end of the line, you whisper into their ear, and then that person,
Is that called the telephone game?
all the way down the line, and then
It's
the last
nothing-
person,
Not
it's
even related.
not even related.
Yeah. I've never heard that called the telephone game. I always heard it in a room like where people are in a circle or a big U.
Yeah,
The presenter will go to the guy at the end of one and whisper something in his ear,
Yeah.
and he's got to repeat it to the next guy, and so on and so on.
whatever
And
they
you
heard,
pass through 10 or 15 people.
and it's nothing.
It's got nothing to do with what was originally said.
Yeah,
It's very true. Yeah. And the sad part is, again, we're talking about this started with QAnon, right? We have a couple of United States representatives who were big QAnon believers. You know that, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene's one.
yeah.
Lauren Boebert is not hardly as big, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is a representative from Georgia. Lauren Boebert's from Colorado. Both of these guys, again, Marjorie Taylor Greene a lot more so than Lauren Boebert, but both of them are QAnon believers, and both of them have espoused several QAnon beliefs. We're sitting here talking about the fact that voters need to be more educated, and that would help. That would help a lot. But we've got people in Congress that are repeating the same stuff.
Yeah,
That's scary.
yeah.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think people, again, what they're saying aligns with some of their personal beliefs? That's part of it. That can't be all of it. What do you think it is? What makes people fall for conspiracy theories other than the easy answer? The easy answer, and you're 100% right, is it aligns with something I believe. It's what I want to hear.
Well, I think we live in a universe now that is very instant. There's a 24-hour news cycle. You hear something, you immediately have to make a decision on it. And I don't think a lot of people. It's the same way with. So like. I just think a lot of people don't take the time to do their own research.
Sure.
And when we were focused on a political slant here, it was the same thing with their candidates. They hear a slogan they like, and that's they're in, and that's it. Regardless of what's on the next page,
I agree.
or how long that page, how big the book is, they hear that slogan and they're in. We have the mentality of goldfish, the attention span of goldfish, or less than goldfish at this point.
I think another part of it is what you're talking about there too, is we like black and white.
Yeah.
And you said we're in. And when we're in, we're in.
Yeah.
We're not halfway in. We're not 2/3. We're not a quarter. We're in.
Yeah.
We like black and white. We like good versus evil.
And the
Those
problem
are easy
is,
choices, right?
Yeah, the problem is most of the world's in gray.
Yes.
And
That's hard. That's the hard part.
a lot of
How much black? How much white?
right, and a lot of the conspiracies and mysteries that we're going to cover on this show operate fully in the gray. So
And you know
be
what?
prepared.
A ton of things in life do.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into politics. I'll guarantee you 100%. There is no black, there is no white, there is no right, there is no wrong.
Regardless of what they say on the
There's a little
campaign
bad
trail,
in all of them.
whatever, whoever says on the campaign trail, there is no black and white. You're right.
And I think this is one of those. I think people hear something they like, as you said, it aligns with some of their beliefs, and they're in.
Yep.
And when they're in, they're in.
Yep.
Yeah, so again,
You know, the one other thing I wanted to mention about
Sure.
Wayfair is the fact Wayfair didn't help themselves for the first 2 or 3 months that this was breaking. They said nothing. They didn't defend themselves. And they allowed media outlets to try to defend them for themselves. And I think that was a mistake.
maybe. Yeah.
You know,
But somewhere along the line, are you going to respond to every crazy, stupid lunatic?
No,
I'm sure that was original thinking.
of course, but after 2 weeks and you're viral, you have to make a
And
decision.
your sales are plummeting.
Right,
Sure.
you have to say something.
I
So
agree.
I think that was a big part of that. What led that in, but
Probably.
you and I, this whole show is going to be based on some sort of, some sort of crazy mystery or conspiracy, and we're going to get to those nuggets. But that's the whole point of this show. We want to find those nuggets, and then that's what we're going to talk about. Is it more or less newsworthy? And even this one has that quality.
So,
Maybe not Wayfair and this particular conspiracy is any more newsworthy, but the fact that how many million did it say
on
thought
Facebook.
on Facebook or on Instagram alone believed it, that is newsworthy.
That is.
People got to change.
But if I ask you overall, the topic I covered, which is the Wayfair child trafficking conspiracy theory, more coverage, less. I'll lead it off. I'll say less. It doesn't have enough. Again, what was my original supposition? It's stupid. It's crazy.
So I'm torn, and here's why I'm torn.
I know.
Anytime that we can put child trafficking or human trafficking in the news, I'm for it. However, this particular one and Pizzagate,
It hurt the real issue.
it hurts the real issue. So I'm with you. No more news coverage on Wayfair.
Even though we're sitting here giving it some right now.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of the show.
It is.
That is the point of our show.
Absolutely.
To determine, do we ever speak of this again? It's kind of, I'll tell you what this is like, Jerry. Years and years ago, I'm going to date myself. There was a radio station in Lexington, Kentucky, that after, I don't know, playing the Margarina about 7 billion times, said, guess what? We're not doing it anymore. We're going to have an album burning in some park there in Lexington. And we are never playing the Macarena again.
Wonder why?
Because
Enough complaints.
it was just so, that's all they talked about. That's all they did. That's all they did. So,
Which one, by the way?
Huh?
Which one?
Which one what?
The station. Double Q.
No. The Macarena is like some pop stuff. I don't even know if the station's
They
still
were
there.
pop back then.
No, Double Q's always been classic rock. Come on, Jerry.
Well, they played some pop, I thought.
No. Double Q gonna come out here and hit you with a
Said
stick.
they've always been pop or classic.
Classic rock.
They went country.
No. They're still classic rock. I got them on my radio right now.
90.1?
No. Double Q 100.1. They moved their dial number. They're still classic.
Well, 98.1 used to be Double Q, used to be classic rock.
Blah, blah,
Now they're country.
blah. Well, no, nobody cares
That
about
happened when I
that.
was gone. I wasn't even here to come back, and I'm like, what the hell? He's playing tricks on me.
So anyway, no more coverage on Wayfair, right? 2 thumbs down. Hey, guys, tell us what you think, right? Tell them how.
We'd love to hear.
Tell them, Jerry.
They can email us at newsworthy with stevenjerry@gmail.com. They can text us at area code 540-709-1318.
Absolutely use the text line, email us, and we want to hear from whatever you got. We want to hear you got an awesome ghost story, We want to hear if you have an idea. We want to hear if you got a guest or you want to be a guest on our show. We'd love to hear from you. But other than that, stick around.
Man, that episode is really interesting. And if you'll stick around for us for just a few commercials, we have another great story to tell you.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. When it comes to buying a home, the process can be overwhelming and confusing. With so many options, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why it's important to work with a certified mortgage loan originator. I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process and find the best mortgage option for you. I will work with you every step of the way to ensure that you are getting the best deal possible. So if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please reach out to me at 502-680-0953. So don't take on the stress of buying a home alone. Work with me and I will make your dream a reality. Trust the professionals and make your home buying experience a positive one. MLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is equal housing opportunity.
If you want us to review or rate your product on air, if you have suggestions for new episodes, awesome ghost stories, or anything else, please reach out to us. Our email address is newsworthywithsteveandjerry@gmail.com. Our text number is area code 540-709-1318.
And now, back to the story. Man, what a great episode. But today's bonus story, Jerry, is crazy.
It is.
We're going to talk about a chicken that lived 18 months with no head.
No way.
So Mike, as the chicken affectionately became known, back in 1945, Lloyd Olson and his wife Clara were out killing the chickens, as farmers do, getting ready to eat. However, Olson would decapitate the birds and use a hatchet. The wife would clean them. They put them in they would eat them. They do whatever with them. However, when Mike was decapitated, he didn't act like the rest of the chickens.
How so?
He got up and started walking around.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'd say that's not like most of the rest.
And he was still walking around when they were in. He was the reason. Have you ever heard the old expression, running around like a chicken with your head cut off?
I've heard it many times.
That is based on Mr. Mike here. So this is a really long story because in 18 months, Mike had an amazing life. He went on tour. He did. The family during this particular hard time really used this chicken to feed their family. Literally.
More than once.
So anyway, of course, some parts of this story I just can't help. I'm sorry.
Parts.
So when Lloyd Olson woke the following morning, he expected this chicken to be fully dead. However, he stepped outside and the damn thing was still walking around, he said. And it gets into his weird family history. We're not going to get into all that, but basically, when they took Mike with them when they went to town to sell the other chickens that they had butchered the day before, and it drew quite a crowd. And then he thought, well, if it draws this much of a crowd, maybe it'll draw people who can pay. So basically, they went around for the next 18 months, touring around, showing off this headless chicken for a small fee. He had articles in Life magazine. It was crazy. They went to California. They went to Arizona, all showing off this weird headless bird. Some people did not like that. They called them Nazis, but for the most part, the people love seeing Mike the Headless Chicken. Now, how did this happen? Because this is the important question. How does a chicken live for 18 months without a head? Turns out science wins. Most of the brains that are in a chicken are in the back part of the brainstem. That's where all the automatic functions are. They fed the chicken directly down his esophagus with a liquid food. And because there was just enough of the brainstem left, that's how Mike the chicken was able to survive. He lived
For a year and a half.
for 18 months, finally dying. He was on tour in Phoenix, Arizona. And I just
I just looked it up. At one point, the owner was making, in today's money, $59,000.
right.
It was only $4,000 at the time, but with inflation, that's $59,000 with his headless chicken.
Based on a headless chicken. They still, to this day, in Fruta, have a headless chicken festival every day or every year in May. And that's the story, the brief story. I would actually encourage any of you guys, you can find the article on the BBC, you can find the article pretty much anywhere. Read the entire article about Mike the headless chicken, but just be known that a chicken named Mike lived 18 months and effectively made his owners very rich people by being completely headless.
Do you know what Paul Harvey would have to say about that?
And that, my friends, is the rest.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Absolutely. And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.